This story is from Hurlbut's Story of the Bible for Young and Old. It is found in Part 1, Stories from the First 5 Books of the Bible, Story 4, The Tower That Was Never Finished, also known as the Tower of Babel. It is found in Genesis chapter 10, verse 1 to Genesis chapter 11, verse 9. Your narrator is Bill Cassidy. After the great flood, the family of Noah and those who came after him grew in number until, as the years went on, the earth began to be full of people once more. But there was one great difference between the people who had lived before the flood and those who lived after it. Before the flood, all the people stayed close together, so that very many lived in one land, and no one lived in other lands, so far as we know. All the people on the earth before the great flood lived in the lands where the two great rivers flowed, called the Tigris and Euphrates. This part of the world was very full of people, but few or none crossed the mountains on the east or the deserts on the west, and the great world beyond was without people living in it. After the flood, families began to move from one place to another, seeking for themselves new homes. Some went one way and some another. This moving about was a part of God's plan to have the whole earth used for the home of men, and not merely a small part of it. Then too, a family who wished to serve God and do right could go away to another land if the people around them became evil, and in a place by themselves they could bring up their children in the right way. From Mount Ararat, where the ark rested, many of the people moved southward to a country between the two great rivers, the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, and there they built houses for themselves. They undertook to build a great city which should rule all the peoples around them. They found that the soil in that country could be made into bricks, and that the bricks could be heated and made hard, so that it was easy to build houses to live in and walls around their city to make it strong against their enemies. And the people said to each other, "Let us build a great tower that shall stand on the earth, and shall reach up to the sky, so that we may be kept together and not scattered abroad on the earth." So they began to build their great tower out of bricks, which they piled up one story above another. But God did not wish all the people on the earth to live close together, just as they had lived before the great flood. God knew that if they all kept together, those that were wicked would lead away from God those that were good, and all the world will become evil again, just as it had been before the flood. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down there, confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left the tower unfinished. And the city was named Babel, a word which means confusion. It was afterward known as Babylon, and for a long time was one of the greatest cities of that part of the world, even after many of its people had left it to live elsewhere. Part of the people who left Babylon went up to the north and built a city called Nineveh, which became the ruling city of a great land called Assyria. These people were called Assyrians. Another company went way to the west and settled by the great river Nile and founded the land of Egypt, with its strange temples and pyramids, its sphinx, and its monuments. Another company wandered northwest until they came to the shore of the great sea, which we call the Mediterranean Sea. There they founded the cities of Sidon and Tyre, where the peoples were sailors sailing to countries far away and bringing home many things from other lands to sell to the people of Babylon and Assyria and Egypt and other countries. So after the flood, the earth again became covered with people living in many lands and speaking many languages.